lunar module is undocking, and at first our concerns were like, okay, where these 3 points, it looks like 3 points of light, it's spinning, as you can clearly see. Were they coming from within inside the lunar module? Well, if you look to the lower left, you'll see the blurry shadows from inside from the videographer. I believe this is shot in 16mm film. And there's no way, because look how sharp this is. It looks like it's a triangle. Actually, we highlight it for you here. Take a look at this. I believe this is coming from outside of the lunar module, and it's in space and it's rotating. Hope you enjoyed the video. See you next time.
Control Houston with Atlantis Commander Brett Jett talking with astronaut Terry Burtz here in Mission Control about an object the crew members noted outside the windows of the space shuttle Atlantis.
Terry, we're in the process of taking pictures with the 400. We've got several other pictures as well, but the best...
Since it's now common knowledge that NASA airbrushed out anomalies and manipulated their photographs taken on the moon and in space to keep up the pretense that there's nothing of interest on our nearest celestial neighbor, it stands to reason that those brave astronauts taking the pictures must have seen whatever it is that scares the proverbial pants off the space agency. You don't have to stretch your imagination too far to accept that the rush to the moon may have been prompted by America's need to investigate the lunar anomalies. In fact, it may have been the one overwhelming reason why billions of taxpayers' dollars were thrown at the Apollo program. What must it have been like for those who walked on the moon to stand in front of these truly massive structures and yet not be able to tell the truth to the masses here on Earth, who idolize them and hang on their every word? Then again, maybe they did, and we just didn't realize it. In an interview given to Saga magazine, NASA's Farouk El-Baz, the man who helped train the astronauts and select the lunar landing sites, and Joseph Goudevage discussed a curious incident which took place during Apollo 16, when when John Young and Charles Duke made an unexpected detour when returning to the LEM, the Lunar Excursion Module, in the Moon rover, after investigating a mysterious color change in the subsurface dirt near the Flag and Buster craters. Capcom: okay, just a question for you, John. When you got halfway, we understand you looped around south. Is that right? Young: that is affirm. We came upon Barbara. What do you suppose Young meant when he said they came upon Barbara? Gudovich asked. Elbaz: I can't really say. Code perhaps? Saga: but Barbara is an odd name for something on the moon, isn't it? Elbaz: yes, an enigma. As I suggested, perhaps a code, but I don't really know. Elbaz then went on to admit that NASA were looking for something which he wouldn't elaborate on, and discussed a bridge-like structure they had discovered in Mare Crisium, but later got very agitated and backtracked when pushed on the question of artificial moon-based structures. Elbaz: no, I'm not admitting such a thing, but when you start to think about it, almost anything is possible. There's almost no limits to how you can interpret the many things astronomers have been observing and reporting for several centuries. Now the astronauts are seeing many anomalies close up. Farouk Elbaz isn't the only one to hint that the moon is a far more enigmatic and mysterious place than we have ever been led to believe. In 1969, former Chief of NASA Communication Systems, Maurice Chatelain, claimed that Neil Armstrong, the first man to set foot on the moon, reported to Houston that he could see two saucer-shaped craft sitting on the rim of a nearby crater from the LEM window. This was confirmed by Christopher Kraft, NASA's first flight director, who watched the dramatic landing of Apollo 11 and Armstrong's hesitant first steps onto the moon from the comfort of Houston's mission control. Another NASA scientist, Otto Binder, also claimed that the story was not only true, but that the conversation was heard by Soviet scientists, such as Dr. Vladimir R. Zazar, Dr. Alexandra Kazantsev, as well as hundreds of amateur ham radio enthusiasts. Then, on the 21st of March 1996, scientists and engineers who had participated in the exploration of the Moon and Mars reported the alarming results of their discoveries at a briefing held at the Washington National Press Club. In front of an astonished audience, it was claimed that NASA had discovered man-made or artificial structures in at least 44 regions of the Moon. Although it has now come to light that none of the Apollo missions truly passed without incident, there are a few missions where the astronauts were so taken aback by what they were seeing that procedure went out of the window, and they seem to have blurted out what they were laying eyes on in front of a live audience listening eagerly back on Earth. This seems to have happened more during the last 3 Apollo missions. Apollo 15, David Scott, Alfred Worden, James Irwin, 26th of July, 7th of August, 1971, the Apennine Mountains. During this mission, Command Module pilot Alfred Worden found himself alone orbiting the Moon at a height of 100 kilometers, while he studied the lunar surface with an array of state-of-the-art equipment, including a gamma-ray spectrometer. Meanwhile, below in the Palus Putenis, the Marsh of Decay region, both Scott and Irwin came across a set of uniform tracks that ran down a slope and out of sight. Irwin: tracks. Here, as we go down the slope. Mission Control: just follow the tracks, huh? Irwin: right, we're garbled. We know that it's a fairly good one. We're bearing 320, hitting range for 413. I can't get over their lineations, that layering on Mount Hadley. Scott: I can't either. That's really spectacular. Irwin: they sure look beautiful. Scott: talk about organization. Irwin: that's the most organized structure I've ever seen. Scott: it's garbled, so uniform in width. Irwin: nothing we've seen before this has shown such uniform thickness from the top of the track to the bottom. We can only ponder on what the 2 astronauts found when they followed the tracks around the edge of the slope, but it's clear from the excited tones of their voices that it came out of the blue and was totally unexpected. It's also worth noting that Harrison Schmitt of Apollo 17 also reported to Houston that he could see similar tracks in Taurus Littrow, at which point he was told to go to Bravo Whiskey Whiskey Romeo, evidence of more code words or perhaps a secret radio band on which prying ears here on Earth couldn't listen into. Apollo 16, Charles Duke, Thomas Mattingly, John Young, 16th of April, 27th of April 1972, Descartes Highlands. After landing, Charlie Duke could hardly believe his eyes when he looked out of the LEM window and saw a blue glass-like structure reflecting sunlight not so far away on the horizon. Unsurprisingly, both Young and Duke were sent to investigate. It is now that Charlie Duke appears to give us a first-hand description of a lunar complex or city, complete with smoky blue glass domes and funnels. Duke, we felt it under our feet. It's a soft spot, firmer where we stand. I tell you one thing, if this place had air in it, it sure would be beautiful. It's beautiful without air. The scenery up on top of Stone Mountain. You would have to be here to see this to believe it. Those domes are incredible. MC, okay, could you take a look at that smoky area there and see what you can see on the face? Duke, beyond the domes, the structure goes almost into the ravine that I described, and one goes to the top. In the northeast wall of the ravine, you can't see the delineation. To the northeast, there are tunnels. To the north, they're dipping east to about 30 degrees. Apollo 17, Eugene Cernan, Ronald Evans, Harrison Schmitt, 7th of December, 19th of December 1972, Taurus Littrow. Although there is more evidence of tampering among the photographs taken on this mission by Cernan and Schmitt than any of the previous missions, it is to Ronald Evans alone in the Command Service module who we must turn to for more evidence of the amazing structures on the moon. As Evans peered down at the moon rushing by below him, the CSM began to pass over the 600-mile-wide bullseye-looking ringed crater known as the Mare Orientale, Eastern Sea, when he noticed something large that was reflecting light. After reporting his sighting, Mission Control in Houston asked him a very strange question. Do you think it could be Vostok? Vostok was the first of the manned Soviet Earth orbiters, one of which took the first man, Yuri Gagarin, into orbit on the 12th of April 1961. The Vostok orbiters never left Earth orbit, and any member of Mission Control worth their salt would know that, so one can only ask, what were they referring to? Is it an interesting coincidence, perhaps, that the Russian Antarctic Research Station, an artificial environment built to withstand the worst weather that Mother Earth can throw at it, is also named Vostok? Could the Russians be secretly using the same system on the moon? It is clear that Vostok was a code word which is supported by the fact that Capcom immediately ordered him to switch channels to Kilo Kilo, so he could give a better description of what he was looking at. Another moon instance that shows that not only were code words used, but also that astronauts sent to the moon were specifically told before they left Earth what to look out for, comes several orbits later, when Evans was zipping across the southern lunar skies over the 2,500-kilometer wide and 13-kilometer deep Mare Aitken. Evans, okay, Robert Parker on Capcom, I guess the big thing I want to report from the backside is that I look at the cloverleaf in Aitken with the binoculars and that southern dome garble to the east. MC, we copy that, Ron. Is there any difference in the color of the dome and the Mare Aitken there? Evans, yes there is. The Condor, Condorcet, Condorcet, or whatever you call it there, Condorcet Hotel, is the one that's got the diamond-shaped fill down in the floor. MC, understand. Condorcet. Evans, Condor, Condorcet, Condorcet Alpha. They've either caught a landslide on it or it's got, and it doesn't look like, garble in the other side of the wall in the northwest side. MC, okay, we copy that. Northwest wall of Condorcet. Evans. The area is oval or elliptical in shape. Of course, the ellipse is toward the top. This interesting but admittedly confusing conversation seems to show that even the command module pilots left alone to orbit the moon were actively searching out and describing objects that they were asked to seek out. We can only imagine what the concourse set looks like, but one thing is for sure, if it's been there a day, it's been there an awful long time. When you consider the marvels that the heroic moonwalkers may have seen, you can't help but wonder why they don't come forward and reveal all. Death threats? Bribes, perhaps? Maybe they have somehow had their minds erased, either entirely or partially, removing their memories of what they walked amongst and cast eyes on while on the moon. It is a fact that once the ticker tape parades and all the platitudes ended, some of the astronauts' lives simply fell apart around them. Buzz Aldrin has well-publicized drinking problems, and the ever-cool, calm and collected Neil Armstrong became a recluse and vanished from the public eye. The outspoken and controversial Dr. Edgar Mitchell of Apollo 14 has often bemoaned how he can't remember much of what he accomplished while wandering the plains of Fra Mauro. And perhaps the most likable of the Apollo astronauts, Alan Bean, spends all his time painting incredibly beautiful pictures of astronauts walking on the moon. Perhaps he finds it therapeutic. On Wednesday, the 20th of July 1994, the elusive Neil Armstrong broke cover to give a speech to students at the White House to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Apollo 11 landing on the moon. Struggling to hold back tears of emotion, Neil gave a rather cryptic speech in which he hints that he remembers more about his time of the Sea of Tranquility than he should. Today we have with us a group of students among America's best. To you we say, we have only completed a beginning. We leave you much that is undone. There are great ideas undiscovered, breakthroughs available to those who can remove one of the truth's protective layers. We find it strangely ironic that as India, Russia, Japan and China go to the moon, President Obama's policies have all but killed off the dreams of an American, adding to the array of footprints that remain in such outposts as Hadley Rille, the Taurus Littrow Valley and the Descartes Highlands, unaltered and as pristine and crisp as the day they were made nearly 40 years ago. Whatever the nationality of the next moonwalker is, we can only hope that the truth's protective layers mentioned so eloquently by Neil Armstrong will be removed, so we can all revel in the truth. It is our right, and maybe, just maybe, our heritage.